Okay, so if that's 3 films, it's maybe, if there are consistent themes running through those films, if there is a consistent style that is running through those films, then you could be arguing that we're seeing the emergence of an auteur, and that that there is a particular stamp that is starting to become recognisable as being part of Greta Gershwin's work. And you know, in the next films that she produces, they're going to be recognisable as well. So you could be starting to argue that and look at that idea of auteur. But yeah, things like representation. You know, this is a female filmmaker. How are males and females represented in this film? You know, what relationship do the themes play to things like gender? You know, it's because you often find that some of those things are addressed with female filmmakers. I mean, one of the people that I mentioned just then was Catherine Breillat, and Catherine Breillat is a French film director. She does look a lot at some of these issues of the male gaze, voyeurism, and coercion and things like that. How people are coerced into doing things.
David Fincher's a good one to look at for, I love him, but for things like masculinity, films like Fight Club and Seven, because it very much focuses, it's a key theme running through his films.
Another, again, as I mentioned before, I also like tie into like Noah Baumbach. He directed the 2 films I mentioned. Also, is Dane Go. Again, half his films are based about, I say, like smart people, but they're not perfect. Like Squid and Whale was about, you know, a very, you know, a family of prodigies, but.
So then you need to separate the two. While she's written it, he's directed it. How much of what ends up on screen? How much of what ends up on screen is her, and how much is him?
Yeah, but and like Squid and Whale's a film about family prodigies, but they're not perfect. Like, if Dad's got infidelity issues and like egotism. The wife, again, was a bit. Again, both of them are not perfect and they're a bit distant. The son's got ego issues. The younger brother in the film kind of took the divorce hard. Another film he did while we're young. Again, it was about like this film like documentary maker who was past his prime, and he did a film recently called The Meyerowitz Stories. It was about like this famed like sculpture. Who's like again very part. Again, all same. It kind of matches the same thematic track.
Yeah. Okay. So my thoughts on this really would be that you need to use some theory somewhere in amongst this. If it's an essay, if you're doing a video essay, you need to address some theoretical stuff. So it's not just you talking about films that you like. You've actually got some theoretical stuff that you can bring in. It might be useful to have some expert opinion or some stats. So you kind of look at the Curzon website, you look at Box Office Mojo or something like that, find out what the audience figures were, which cinemas were these films shown in, who went to see it. Those kind of things would be quite interesting. So when we're talking about it being an art house movie, has it been popular in the art house scene in the UK? So there are art house movies that are dedicated to specific releases, and it's got a very, very different audience. Sometimes mainstream cinemas put on art house movies if there's a particular, if there's going to be a particular take up in an area, or you could privately get an Odeon to show a film because you know. You have to pay to hire the cinema, but they will show things like that. So you need to look at that. So there's something about the audience and how the audience reacts. And you could interview people who have watched the film or who are members of the audience. That could be part of this.
Yeah. Or like just like other like essays and like reviews and stuff.
Yeah, and you could cite other
counsel and stuff.
Yeah. Or any books that have been written or anything else.
Yes. Yeah.
You fan theories as well. Like
Yeah,
people who are fans of the film, what they think of it and what theories they've come up with.
Yeah, but again, art house films ain't like blockbusters, so they ain't saying like like who did what. Instead, it's kind of more or less more like again, it's independent films are very like different and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're all generally very different.
Yeah.
But you sometimes get actors who are in sort of both films. I mean, I like looking at a lot of French. I like watching a lot of French films.
Like Francis Ha, that's like very French New Wave. If you ever understand like stuff there, except about the poistering.
Okay, starting to get into some theoretical elements. What do you mean by French New Wave then?
Again, so I remember reading about the film. I just read about saying it's very eminent of like French New Wave, and I looked up French New Wave. He goes, oh yeah, like black and white, and there's like a scene where they basically reference a French film, and
okay, does French New Wave mean black and white?
No. Again, French New Wave in the 60s was a movement of films made in France which were a bit more experimental and artsy, as in they like pushed about like.
Okay, and who were the notable directors?
Jean-Luc Godard, Francois Truffaut. Yeah, him, and it's the only two I know. I know they were like, it's very much a. And again, it's very much a.
At least you mentioned the probably the top two. So yeah. Alright, okay. So have you looked at any of their films? Jean-Luc Godard or
I haven't seen any of their films, but I've seen like I've read about them. Like I watched one of the people I showed you did a kind of review and look at is Godard's version of King Lear he made in the 80s, which he made with Golden Globus. For those of you who don't know, they were a movie production company known for making films like Death Wish into a franchise, and Chuck Norris movies. And basically, because Globus wants to make more prestigious films, they chose Godard to make a production of King Lear, which he kind of made into which he basically pulled a fast one on him and basically made it into a less like thing about a dying man and his daughter and making his daughters fight for his affection. It's a post-apocalyptic, I use that term very loosely, film where nothing happens, and for some reason Molly Ringwald and Burge Meredith are in it. And again, I watched another thing called Welcome to the Basement, which is again more of a discussion show where they watch a film and then they discuss it later and they talk about his film Weekend.
So if I was going to recommend that you watch a film, I would recommend that you watch Jean-Luc Godard's Contempt. It's called Le Mépris from the 1960s.
Yeah.
It's in colour, it's not in black and white, it's French New Wave or Nouvelle Vague. But it actually explores a lot of the themes that and a lot of the thoughts of French New Wave directors are kind of addressed within the themes. You have Fritz Lang is in it. Fritz Lang is a very famous director. Even in the New Wave, they knew all about him. Fritz Lang did Metropolis in the 1920s. So a very, very famous director. But he's an old man in Le Mépris, but he represents that kind of art side of it. And then you've got Jack Palance, who plays the producer, who represents the American system, the American film production system. And you've got that conflict between the two. So it's an interesting film to watch. And it's got Brigitte Bardot.
Another film I kind of just remembered now. I don't think he's New Wave, but he's still French. He might have been influenced in that film. Jacques Cocteau. He's a famous French film director who made several famous French movies.
But you're looking at the period 50s and 60s.
Yeah. Again,
that's really it. I mean, you're not really looking at films from the 80s.
Yeah. Again,
because it's cited very much in that, and it kind of borrows from. It's not an ending to itself. It also borrows ideas from things like Italian neorealism. So if you're looking at filmic movements, so you're kind of
I remember
locating French New Wave within a whole series of filmic movements.